In this video, we're going to be going over resumes, looking at what are some of the key things that are necessary as far as making good resumes. We'll look at some bad resumes and why are they bad, and go over some of the things that you need to include as far as your resume is concerned. By class time next week, you need to have 2 examples of your resume submitted. What I suggest is a couple of different positionings, maybe different formats or something along those lines. We'll talk about that here. Now, let's look at some bad resumes, okay? It's interesting what it is that people will do as far as resumes are concerned. Okay, here's one. The ideal position would be businessman with $18,000 to $250,000 in benefits, okay, in salary and benefits. That's cool. Experience, wrote lots of articles, took excellent photographs. Education, Yale, Harvard, Oxford, DeVry, and holds a degree in business running and profit making. Okay, that'll get you really hired right away. It's really important to make sure that you spell check your resumes. I think this guy wanted to be a cook. Thinking about your accomplishments. Okay, maybe losing virginity was a kind of accomplishment for you. That may be kind of interesting. Almost tricked into marriage. Okay, glad to see that he avoided that, you know. Here's a guy who's stuck in the 90s. Most awesome resume, dude. Okay. Stay away from things like that. Honesty is important. You need to be important and need to be honest in the things that you put in. You may want to think about some of the things that you put in there as far as that honesty is concerned. Marijuana dealer and nefarious dude. Oh yeah, that'll get him hired. Once a gangsta, always a gangsta. All right. You may want to stay away from things like that. One of the things to think about is what kind of fonts are you using? All right. Stay away from different colors, different clip arts, things like this. This guy came up with my little resume. Now, it's really kind of interesting. Like it said here, he must have been on some kind of psychotropic drugs. Okay. Now, if you look at the information there, it's really kind of interesting as far as what he put in there. This is not going to get him hired. Now, being straightforward is good, okay? You may want to think about how straightforward you want to be. Hi, I'm looking for a job, only for the summer, though, because I got to go back to school. And then don't necessarily use contractions, abbreviations, things like that. And I'm glad to see that our volunteer experience consists of wrapping gifts. Okay. So those are some bad resumes and I really don't see too many that are like that. Now, this is kind of an interesting article. It talks about what makes a bad resume. Okay. I see a lot of resumes that look something like this. Okay. Where you have the person's name, qualification summary, and basically what they've done is they put in an objective as far as what it is that they want to get. Looking to obtain a position, selected accomplishments, professional experience, working towards defining technical issues, estimating and providing time for tasks. Okay, kind of cool. All right. I see a lot of that stuff. There's a lot of problems with this. Number 1, uses an objective, replace it with a summary. Most times, a lot of the objectives that I see, looking to get a really cool job, making big bucks, this sort of thing, the hiring manager doesn't care what your objective is. The hiring manager has a goal, has an objective of, I need to solve a problem. All right. So stay away from objectives. One of the things that I do is use positioning statements, and I'll show you that here in just a bit. You also want to make sure that you have basically a summary as far as maybe your skills, some of the things that you've done. Has uninspired work experience section, okay? So in other words, developed a sales plan using new and existing resources. Okay, well, that's cool. The thing is, what impact did it make? What difference did it make? Instead, do something like created a dynamic sales strategy that boosted quarterly sales activity by 17%, increasing division profits by 12%. These are the things that are going to sell. In other words, what have you done that made a difference? What was the impact? This is where the SARS come into play. Remember last week we talked about developing SARs, and for this past class, we asked that you bring those SARs with you, the little stories, where you explain, here's a situation I had, here's the action that I took, the things that I did, and then here's what the result was, here's what the impact was, here's what the so what was. Because those SARs are then used not only in interviews where you're telling stories about here's how I made a difference, they're also used on your resume, where you take the action and result aspect and put that into the resume. If you look at this example here, that is the action and result. I'll show you some examples here in just a bit. No skills or core competencies. One of the things you want to include in there are, what are the key skills? What is it that you bring to the table that could be used? Consider your word choice as far as your work experience is concerned. Don't write responsible for this, led this, okay? Not represented, but served as trade show ambassador. What you want to do is you want to use action verbs that really do show how you made a difference. Spelling errors, obviously. You don't want to have any spelling errors. Just one error many times can throw it out. Poor design and layout, and the information isn't tailored. One of the things you want to do, the mistake that a lot of people make is they say, I have a resume. No, you should have multiple resumes. You should be able to tailor that resume to a particular position. Every time you send out a resume, it should be somewhat different because it's tailored to a particular position that you're looking for, be it an internal job or an external job. You want to make sure that you are creating that resume and making it so that the person who's looking at that can make a match between your experience and what it is that they're looking for in that position. Now, I have some examples out on Blackboard. Out on Blackboard, you have sample documents, okay? In the sample documents, there are some examples as far as resumes. What I've done is I've put my resume, a couple of different resumes of mine out there, plus a CV, a curriculum vitae, to show you the difference there. So here's one of the resumes that I have. Now, if you look at just the formatting, okay? Now, for most of you, your experience, because of your experience, the amount of experience you have, things like that, you should make sure that it stays to one page. When I think of one page, I think of one page printed front and back. Because I have much more experience than most of you, you'll see that I have 2 pages here. On the first page, I have selected achievements. On the second page, I have my professional experience and my education. Now, this is one format that I use. Another format that I use looks like this. Again, selected achievements. Here's the positioning, summary, skills, selected achievements, and then the professional experience. Now, on my resumes, the second page is static. It doesn't change. The first page will change based on where it is that I'm sending it. Who is it that I'm sending it to? How am I trying to position myself in the market? In this case, you'll notice for this resume, I'm positioning myself in the hiring market as organizational development consultant. On this one, I'm positioning myself in the hiring market as far as training and education leadership. You'll see some differences. You'll see that there will be some different skills, and there may be some of the same skills. And then you'll see the selected achievements may be a little different, and there may be some of these that are the same and some that are different. If you look at each of these, what I've done is I've taken a SAR and then boiled it down to just the action and result. Anytime you can put in some dollars, some percentages, this sort of thing that says that here's what the impact was, you are actually giving that person much more information and differentiating yourself from others. So, for example, I have a SAR, a story with a situation, action, and result that looks at what it was that I was doing, and then I boil it down to just the action and result. Developed and led a 2-day team building process for senior execs of a $4 billion pharmaceutical firm, resulted in the initial planning for the coming 2 years. Designed, implemented, and facilitated leadership development process consisting of 11 6-month sessions, 25 to 30 managers each, increase in management competencies of over 25%. So you can see what I've done is I've included in there, here's the action I took, and here's what the result was. Here's what the so what was. Okay, so you can see some of the achievements that I've put in on that one. For the one that was positioning for training, education, leadership, one of the things that I did was I made it so that it was in 3 different sections: management, T&OD, and executive presence and communication. And you can see here's one of the SARs from the other one. And you can see that there's some other things in there. Okay. And again, the experience stays static. So one of the things that you want to do for next week is put together two resumes. Put together 2 resumes. And one of the things I suggest is 2 different positionings. In other words, how are you positioning yourself in the market? You may want to have different SARs for each of those positionings that you might have. So this is something to play with. You have to remember that the resume is a marketing document. It is not a hiring instrument or anything like that. You are marketing yourself and what it is that you bring to the table, how it is that you differentiate from others as far as the skills that you bring and the things that you can accomplish. So for next week, do 2 different resumes. I suggest 2 different positionings in the market, then, and also possibly some different different formats or something along those lines. Play with it. So let me know if you have questions as far as the resume is concerned. Now, one of the things I did do also was include a copy of a CV, a curriculum vitae. The resume is a marketing document. In other words, you're marketing yourself with others in the against others in the market. What it is just, here is a summary. Here is a sales brochure as far as what it is that I bring. A curriculum vitae is typically used in academia and in research areas. And it is basically everything you've done from birth to death. All right. And so a CV can be many pages. I was talking with someone before who saw the CV of a physician who's been in medical practice for 30 years or something. It was 86 pages long because of all of the research and the articles that have been written. With a resume, keep it to 1 page, max 2, which is basically 1 page printed front and back. With a CV, it can be just as much as you want in there. You can see in my CV all of the various classes that I've taught at Rockhurst, at Bellevue University, Johnson County Community College, and this is actually in Old Dominion. I also have classes I've been teaching at Old Dominion University. It has instructional innovations. It has professional experience. It has all kinds of information, multiple pages. So these are some things to think about when you start thinking about resumes and CVs. For the assignment, put together 2 resumes. Really think about how you want to have others think of you, what it is that you are applying for. Tailor both of those resumes, make them different. Don't just change a slight format from one to the other. Really make them different. Really think it through. Include different SARs, different impacts that you may have had. And if you have questions, please feel free to give me a call.